In this training, we will be covering AEM as our development, okay, and we will be taking this right from the scratch, what AEM is, okay, and how it is working. First of all, we'll understand the basic in and outs of the tool itself, and then we'll go ahead and see how we usually do the development task. Means right, it usually revolves around creating templates, components, and then we have to write the backend Java classes as well. There are multiple other technologies that we will be using. We'll cover that in the lecture only. Okay, so just an introduction for that I will be giving you right now, but then moving forward, we'll be covering them. Okay, so today, like, this is kind of an introduction session. Okay, so what we will be covering is the basic architecture of AEM. Although, like, I think since Pankaj is working on that as a content author, so he must be aware of the basic understanding of the tool. Okay, how to surf into that AEM instance. So, but for some, it would be new for you. Okay, now when we are talking about AEM, okay, we already know that it is a CMS. Okay, so what is a CMS? CMS is basically stands for a content management system that is used to kind of like manage or to design the content for the clients. Okay, or for the businesses. Okay, now here, what is basically content? Okay, so first of all, right, it is self-explanatory, or you know already that content management system is kind of a set of an application or a program that is used to create manage digital content. Okay, then we have other CMS as well in the market. You have heard of those as well: Drupal, Sitecore, WordPress, right? These are all other competitors in terms of the AEM. Okay, now when I'm saying what is a content, okay, so you see on the pages on any website, we have various static content. It can be a text, it can be any image, it can be any description, right? What they are trying to show to the end user, that is usually a content. Okay, each and everything which is visible on the website, that is a content in any form it can be. Okay, now this giving you a better example, this is a kind of a snapshot which has been taken from Kellogg's site. Okay, if you can see, this web page is having various content. It can be what I was telling, it can be any in the textual representation. So you see the R brands well-being, this is the textual representation. Then we have an visual representation then of the data, which is basically an image over here. Then we have the other form of data or the content, which is basically in form of video. Okay, so it can be any, it can take a form of any type of the content. Okay, but eventually, or what I'll say, right, as a holistic view, everything which has been served to the end user, that is one or the other form of content only. Okay, now how this is something which is being developed, right? That is the understanding that we will be taking. Okay, but Pankaj, right, as you worked on content author, so can you just like give us some hint, or right, if you have any idea how things are getting uh, right stored over here, right? How the components, if you can know, right? This is something which is written as text, image, videos. So you have done on right authoring, so you should be knowing, right, what are components and all those things. Can you just elaborate for Sam as well, right? Maybe we can discuss more on that.
Yeah, so we can add the components uh, from the main screen. Like we can see a banner and then a video component. So we can add the banner and then add the image and the text that we need to add, and then same like video and then the URL of the video, and if there are any other information like alt text and title for the video, we can add it.
Okay. So Sam, what he is trying to say is that these are specific components which are getting used over this page. Okay, so right from the scratch, I'll tell you, right? Suppose we have a page, okay, so that page is having various components, okay. So the web page is divided into small functionalities or small components, okay, and we are using those components to build this whole as a functionality, okay. So now here, if we refer this image, these are pointing to three components. Okay, what Pankaj just explained. Okay, these are the text components, image component, and the video component. By authoring, he means that we can author or we can input any value. Okay, now this is another what he is talking about, the banner and all those things. So this image is acting as a banner over here. It is basically what I'll say, right? The components name can be different, right? So image, and then we have a banner, right? That is also of the same functionality, but we can give more functionality over there to write in text in addition to that image. Okay, so all these are basically components. Okay, we are dividing or we are disintegrating this whole web page into small components, and then we are building that whole page. And for like building those pages as a whole will be helpful in creating the website. Okay, so that is the kind of like a low level approach that you should be knowing on a page. Okay, now what is basically an AEM and what it gives us, right? What functionalities it gives us, okay, and why it is preferred, okay. That is what we'll see over here, okay. So this is a CMS tool, and you can say that it is just as one of the leading experience management solutions, right? We already know about this thing. So going ahead to the point is, as I already talked about this one, AEM based on components and templates. Okay. So everything here on the web page is basically divided or disintegrated into small functionalities, and those functionalities are known as components. Okay, we have to create those functionalities by creating the components. Okay, now what is templates? They are talking about templates. As of now, you can just keep this in mind. We'll explain a bit later. Okay, what is templates? Okay, now what AEM gives us, or it allows a Java based development environment. Okay, so here, right, for any CMS, right, the language is totally different, right? So suppose if we talk about Drupal and Sitecode, they're using .NET and PHP, okay. But then here, this is uh, this is using Java for the development, okay. So we will be writing Java classes for the Sling models, and all those backend activities will have to use that only. Now, one more thing, right? Anyone can author and update sites. Okay, that right at the start when the business was trying to move into AEM, the best point they felt was that anyone can author these sites, right? There is no development knowledge required. Okay, since Pankaj has worked as a content author, okay, so he must be agreeing with this thing. Okay, so in this one, where we have various roles which you might be aware of that. Okay, Pankaj is aware of that, but Sam, since you are new to this one, so I will be recalling all the roles in regards to the AEM cycle. Okay, but then again, there is a role which is AEM content author. That is usually there to update or to author the sites, okay, or to manage the assets. Those kind of activities are done by content authors, okay. And for this activity, there is no development knowledge required, okay. Then we have easy maintenance for this one, and easy publish data. We can easily publish the data. Okay. Then we have easy integration with the third party applications. So in AEM, we have this as a Adobe Marketing Cloud where we have other applications as well. Okay. It can be, right, if we are talking about third-party applications, there are a number of applications. Let's take an example of Salesforce, okay, that is, and SAML authentication, that is what they are more, right, they are more common, okay. So the integration to that is based on the configurations, that is easy to do. Then we have the integrations with Adobe, you can say Adobe Analytics, Adobe Campaign, and Adobe Target. These are also the common use cases, okay, common scenarios. So that integration is also easy with AEM, okay. Now moving forward, right, the page which we saw just now, see over here, this is basically what I was talking about, okay. If you see on the left hand side, we have this web page, but then this is basically the template, okay. So let's talk about template, okay. Now template is basically, you can refer it as a backbone or a structure on which page is created, okay. So every page is basically created on a template, okay, and that template is acting as a backbone or structure for this page. And when I'm talking about as a structure or a layout, right, so it is having components, right, and you can see over that here, that on the top thing we have a logo, we have a header component, okay, then we have the left navigation component, then we have image component, video component, just after that we have a text component, okay. So this is what, just at the background of this image or background of this web page, we have this whole structure which is residing, okay. For the any page, right, suppose if you are creating any number of pages, template is required, okay. We can create multiple pages on a template, okay. It's not that we have to create one page only on one template. We can create multiple pages on a specific template. It totally depends on the requirement what we have, okay. Now talking about the roles or talking about the process in AEM cycle. So first of all, right, we usually have developers, okay. Then we have content authors, content approvers, okay. And the content which is basically authored, it goes to the live site, okay. So if I go one step back to the developers, we usually have a business analyst or a product owner. It totally depends on the organization to organization. Like if we talk about the job profile, okay. So what AEM developers task is, they will be working on the information or the requirement which has been gathered from the client by the business analyst guy, and they will be working on those requirements to create the functionality, okay. Usually on a low level, once AEM development started, we have to create templates and components only, but then after that we have to work on the configurations part as well, okay. And when I'm saying we will be developing the components and templates, it does not mean that we have to create it right from CRX, okay. So we have to write the Java classes as well. We have to write HTML as well. All those technologies we have to get our hands dirty, and we have to work on that in whole component development life cycle, okay. So we'll talk more about this in the coming lecture, in the coming slide, okay. For the content authors, this is very much clear, right, and we don't need any development knowledge for the content authors. Content, they comes into the picture when everything which was in the development thing was completed, okay. So they will be using those components templates, and they will be trying to build those pages, okay, with the functionality. Then we have content approvers. Content approvers, they are basically the guys who are approving the content, okay. When someone is authoring the pages, okay, it has to go live, okay. So for that purpose, it needs to be verified once, okay. So that is basically done by the content approvers. It can be your PO as well, right, or business analyst guy. It can be someone from the client side as well, okay. So that is how it totally depends on client to client, okay. Then once the content is approved, then it goes live, okay. Now you see, right, few of the features of Adobe Experience Manager which we usually, right, what we talked about earlier, that is one, it is the same only. But then again, there are a few other things, right? What I will be talking about, right, is like the out of the box components for rapid development. Okay, so what they are saying is that there are few features which are making AEM as a hot pick, okay, in comparison to the others. Okay, so we have out of the box components which are already developed and provided by Adobe only, just to increase the speed of our development activity. Okay, and we will be seeing those out of the box components, okay, in this lecture only. Okay, we'll see it. Then we have the content editing features even from the distributed locations. Okay, we can edit the content, right, from other devices as well. We can do it from phone as well. Okay, we can do it from the laptop as well. So there are other locations as well, right, where we can edit this thing, these content. Okay, then we have multi-site management for any local. So already, right, this is not a feature, right, which is like only AEM is providing. Other CMS also does provide this thing. What it is talking about is, right, suppose we have a website, okay, and it is created for multi it is created for the various nations. Okay, suppose like maybe more than one countries. Okay, so suppose like it has to be live in Saudi Arabia as well, it has to be live in Germany. Okay, so and in India. Okay, so suppose we are taking an example of three countries. Okay, so the language here is not the same, right, in all three cases. Okay, so for that, it usually have multi-site management feature for the different locales. Okay, so for in India we will be using English, right, but then for Saudi Arabia we will be using Arabic. Okay, then for the Germans, right, we are using Germany, we are using German. Okay, so those kind of things, right, it would be translating this whole website into different locales. Okay, so that is one thing. Then everything remains the same, right? Easy integrations and digital asset management. That is basically we call it as a TEM, and it stands for like digital asset management. And what they are doing is it gives you a kind of an interface, or it let's say, right, a functionality where you can create your assets, where you can manage your assets. Okay, that is what it is providing you. Okay, and that's in a kind of a functionality that is also being used in AEM just to store the number of assets, right? So suppose a person like, or a business has a assets which is greater than probably like 100 terabytes or more than that. So what they usually does with AEM is they just use its DEM capabilities, right? And they usually manage their assets. Okay, so when we are talking about assets, they can be images, PNG files, JPEG, PDF, okay, zip, TIFF files. Okay, it can be anything. Okay, so regarding that assets, you have to store some metadata as well. Okay, so what is metadata? Metadata is basically an added information related to any asset. Okay, it can be title, it can be any other properties which business wants to add to that specific asset. Okay, that we will be also looking. Okay, how we can add those properties to an asset. Okay, then we have integration with the Adobe Marketing Cloud that we already know, right? Then EMS Cloud, best practice support, marketing campaigns. Okay, these campaigns and Adobe Marketing Cloud, these are a kind of in relation with each other. Okay, when I'm talking about Adobe Marketing Cloud, we usually have a suite of products over here, and it is like Adobe Campaign, Adobe Analytics, and Adobe Target. Okay, that is these three. I'm giving an example that is a part of the Adobe products. Okay, so the integration to that is very much easy. Then we have these campaigns which are run by Adobe campaigns. Okay, in integration with AEM. Then okay, then we have AEM as a headless CMS. In this one, what we are doing, we are just exposing the data from the AEM end, and the data is being used at some other applications. Okay, so that is also being used over here. As I told, they just use to store the data, and after that, the data is being just sent out by an API call, and that is being used in some other application. Okay, now for other things, right, for the role based, you already know, but I'll tell you. for the developer, we have this categorized into two parts, right? It is front-end developer and the back-end developer. For the when we are calling as an AEM developer, usually it relates to the back-end developer only. Okay. So for that you have to know Java, core Java, you should be knowing that. Then servlets, Sitely, HTML, you should be having good understanding. Then HTML, CSS, JavaScript, you should have a basic understanding for this. Okay. So here, what is HTML or Sitely? Okay. So you guys must be aware of HTML. You also used it maybe in your college days. Okay. So it is similar to HTML only. HTML is basically the pro will say, right, it's not the programming language, it's the scripting language what they are using in creating the .html file. Okay, so they have in addition to the tags which are available in HTML, they have some other tags which are basically present in HTML. Okay, and HTML stands for HTML template language, or in other words we call it as slightly as well. Okay, so we will be using that one. We will be trying to understand what all tags we are using over here, and we'll work on that. Now, tools or developer is that what we need is the setup. The setup needs to be done for the AEM instance on our local. Okay, so for that you should be having JDK 11 plus. Okay, then you should be having Maven 3.6.5 or 3.6.0 plus version. Okay, then for the development activities, you should be having IntelliJ or Eclipse. Any ID code ID will be working over here. Maybe you can use VS Code. Then Git and Jenkins, right? This is something which we usually work on the project specific thing. Okay, so for fetching that project and all those things, you need Git, and Jenkins is basically used to deploy that code, right? Or to build that pipeline or just give a build. Okay, so Jenkins is another tool. Okay, but as of now, right, since we will be focusing on development on our local, right, we will not be focusing on the Jenkins and Git. Okay, then we have other thing is which is basically, right, QA and marketing sales people. There's nothing more to understand on this one, right? QA does not need like any kind of knowledge on in terms of technologies, but they should be having a good knowledge on the development cycle, how things are getting developed, and they should be also aware of AEM as a tool, right? They must know how to surf through instances. If somebody is getting an issue, they must try to decode it. So that is one other thing. And marketing sales guys, right? These are the guys, right, who are selling the product. So eventually, right, when you are selling your product, okay, so you should be knowing the in and out, right, way more than the other guys. Okay, I'm not talking about into the development thing, right? They should not be aware of how things will be getting developed, but they should know, right, how things are getting worked over here. So that is one other thing. Now, if we talk about the AEM technology stack, so we'll quickly go and have a walkthrough over here. So as we already know, right, AEM is a Java web application, and it is based on the technologies such as an OSGI, JCR, and Apache Sling. If you see, I have talked about three specific technologies over here, and they are OSGI, JCR, and Apache Sling. Okay, so these three are the main key pillars over here if we talk about the architecture of AEM. Okay, now what these technologies are all about, we'll try to further go and explore. Okay, as of now, you can see this image or this snapshot which is giving you a kind of a overview, what is basically like how they are aligned and what is the architecture. Okay, so we have this OSGI, this is the framework, and in that one we have this Apache Sling and JCR, and we have this AEM build on top of that. Okay, now there's also a keynote, you can see it over here, that Granite platform. Granite is Adobe's open stack platform on which AEM is built. Okay, so these right, when you like this is just necessary for your understanding. You can just keep it as in a theoretical manner. Okay, you should be knowing, right, what are the key pillars or the key tech stacks which are getting used over here in AEM. Sometimes they are get, yeah, you can face these questions in interviews as well. They just want to know these jargons, right? They just want to know, like, you are aware of these specific jargons, OSGI, JCR, Apache Sling. So you should be knowing these things in terms of interview perspective as well. Okay. Now, when I'm talking about Granite platform, so now we know that Granite is the web stack, right? It is the Adobe's web stack on which this whole tool AEM is basically built on. Okay. On top of here, on the right hand side, you will see a snap over here that this platform is, like, it is there, and it has been that AEM is totally built on that. And then we have this Java runtime environment, okay, JRE, which is basically responsible, and we should have this over here in our local before setting up that instance. Okay, if we are not having that in JDK, or probably I think if you are working on AEMS cloud, you should be having JDK 11. And if you are working on AEM on-prem or AEM 6.5, then you should be having JDK 8 plus. Okay, so that is the requirement. Now moving forward, uh, now we know that we have this Granite platform. Now we'll talk more about this Granite platform. So you can just refer it from here as well, but I'll tell you in short only. So this is kind of a software or a platform which is basically helping us to build the scalable applications. Okay. Now, when I'm talking about the scalable applications, right, it is in regards to the application. When there is a load, it can divide that load, it can scale that application, right? That is what we are talking over here. Now, this is a kind of, you can say that it supports an open architecture or open standards, where we have these two technologies, okay, JCR and OSGI. OSGI here stands for Open Service Gateway Initiative, okay, and AEM is built on the Granite platform. So we can see over here, right, what Granite platform is giving us, right, what it is providing us. Okay, so it provides us an application launcher, okay, where it is being used, how it is being used, we will be seeing in the lectures as well, but I'll quickly give you an overview. Probably, I think, Pankaj, are you aware of this application launcher or the quick start?
No.
Okay, okay. So I will see it. Okay, so as of now, just take this as in as a theory part only. Okay, so it is giving us the quick start for deployment, or just to start the application servers, right? It is mainly used to start the servers as well. Okay, then we have OSGI framework. OSGI framework is basically a framework in which we usually deploy our bundles, we deploy our code, everything here basically deployed into OSGI framework. Okay. Then other numerous OSGI services it is like giving us, or it is providing, which is helpful in building that application, or that, right, running that application. Okay. Then we have the JCR API specification. Okay, that is basically, we are talking about Java content repository. Okay, and what is JCR? We'll talk ahead. Okay, and this is Apache Sling web framework. Okay, this is one more thing. Okay, if you see over here, right, what three pillars what we talked about recently, JCR, okay, Apache Sling framework, and OSGI, it is giving us those things, right? Granite is providing that. Okay, now moving ahead, we'll see what all these three are. Okay, so the first one is basically an OSGI framework. Okay, so OSGI framework and where it is needed. Okay, so it is needed in terms of giving us this flexibility to create a modular environment. Okay, when I'm saying modular and collaborative environment, it says, right, the application, it is basically tightly coupled into small bundles, right? The whole application is like it is divided into small bundles, jar files, and as a whole it gets deployed. Okay, so in that case OSGI framework comes into the picture. Okay, so if you see over here, it is saying where each application may be built and implemented as a small bundles. Okay, so everything here in this OSGI framework is built as a bundle. Okay, now if we are deploying any project, okay, so that project is also being deployed in the OSGI framework as a bundle only. Okay, and that bundle can have their external dependencies, can have the configurations files. They are basically tightly coupled with that. Okay, we'll go to that OSGI framework. We'll try to see that bundles where it is getting stored. Okay, all those things will go and try to see the interface. Okay, in AEM instance. Now this is JCR. JCR is basically stands for Java Content Repository. This is a database. It is the AEM database. We are not using any other database, no MongoDB, no RDBMS. We're not using anything. We are using JCR here. Here, all the data is getting stored in node. Okay, you can see that over here, right? We have this is a parent node, and then we have apps, bin, content. Okay, so these are all nodes. Okay, and here the data is getting stored in nodes only. And what JCR is all about is to store the right unstructured content or the structured one. Okay, usually, right, we have the unstructured content over here. Okay, now it is right, what is saying, right, all data. Okay, so what they are talking about here is, right, in apps, right, we usually have all the data related to the files or components. Okay, so when we are creating any components, we will be creating under apps only. Okay, then we have under conf, we usually have our configuration files over here under this node. Then we have content. Content is something where we will be seeing our assets, our pages. Okay, those kind of things we'll see over here. Conf also usually contains our templates, template types, policies. Those are also things which conf folder will be having. Okay, so this is another thing. Then quickly go to Apache Sling over here. Apache Sling is basically a web application framework, and it uses the JCR, right? It uses that database what we have gone through, this one, AEM JCR. It uses this database to manage the content. Okay, when I'm talking about how they are managing it, right, there is, right, a separate this Apache Sling. This is basically a framework, and what it does, it goes to this database and retrieve the data or retrieve the content and show us on the web page. Okay, I will be taking this whole lecture, right, because this is the important thing, and this is how, right, if you are giving an interview, what they will be asking you as a guy, right, which is who is having 2 years of experience, 2.5 years of experience, they are expecting to for you guys, right, to know how Sling is working, how Sling is decomposing the URLs, how it is going to the JCR. Okay, and how it is working hand in hand. Okay, so we will be working more onto that, but as of now, you can say that here as now Sling assumes everything here is a resource. Okay, everything here is a resource, and it is a resource oriented thing. We'll see more about this Apache Sling in the coming lectures, and we'll see how it goes to JCRs, right? But when I'm talking about these nodes, right, what Sling does, Sling assumes each node is basically a resource. Okay, so that is what it is telling over here. This is one other thing what he's talking about, to go to this resource and try to see it, but we'll create our own node, we'll create our own link, and then we'll try to see it. Okay, So resource resolution will be discussed in detail in future sessions. Okay, that is what I'm talking about. We'll try to see how the URL decomposing, how the resource resolution is being done. But as of now, just make sure that it is being done with the help of Apache Sling or the Sling framework. Okay, so this is the basic building blocks what we already talked about. I will quickly go to the AEM instance. Okay, then in the coming lectures as well, we will be talking how to set up your AEM instance. Okay, so as I think Sam is new to this, so he'll not be having that instance. But Pankaj, do you have your instance ready, or like we will be doing it right? You know how to get your instance ready?
No, Vikas.
Okay, no issues. So we will be doing that as well. So probably right from the second class only, we will be working on that. As of now, just let me run through the AEM instance. Okay, I am accessing my AEM instance on the local, and this is the port which I am using. Okay, so when we are starting our AEM instance, it has to be start on any port. We can give it 45024, anything we can give. Okay, but as a back practice or by the default thing, 4502 comes by default. Okay, that is what we should be using, right? It is kind of a recommended approach, but it's not something that is followed hardly. Okay, then we have, we'll quickly go to the uh, home page or the landing page for you guys. Okay, so you see over here, this is the landing page of AEM. Okay, or this is the start page. Okay, now quickly, yeah, minimize it. Okay, so there are various options which we have, right? This is the navigation, right? This is the tools, this is navigation, and we have other options here. This is sites, assets, right? I was talking about a dam. Okay, so dam is basically a kind of a place where you can store the assets. So you have to go, right? If you see over here, you are under assets, then files, then you are getting this place, right? You will be redirected and you will be getting a place where you can store and manage your assets. Okay, and managing the assets, it can be done based on some filters, it can be done based on some folders. Okay, suppose you want to differentiate your assets in some different folders, that is something that you can organize. Okay, in files only. Just give me a second why it is not loaded. Hello, I'm audible.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm talking about this thing, right? If you see over here, as right, you are getting these folders. The reason is, right, these two folders are basically associated with my project. Okay, this is what I build it onto this AEM instance. That is the reason you're getting it over here. When you will be starting right from the scratch, you will not be getting these two projects or the folders. Okay, so suppose I am into this folder, okay, or into this project specific folder, and if I want to create any new folder to organize my asset, okay, so maybe test one or something, we can just create any asset, sorry, any folder over here, and inside this we can create any asset also. Okay, so let me quickly just do it for you guys so that. Okay, so what I did, I had this asset over there in my local. I just uploaded it. Okay, so we'll see how to upload it. That's we will be covering in the future sessions. Okay, but there are probably two, three ways to upload an asset, and totally depends upon the requirement. Okay, so this is the asset which I just uploaded over here, and when I'm doing any change over in the touch UI. Okay, so this is touch UI. What I'm working is in touch UI. So if I'm clicking on it, will surf it back. Okay, will go to this navigation tools. So this is all things are in touch UI. Okay, and if I quickly go to show what exactly is. Okay, so this thing is what right from the image as well, you can identify that this is the database or this is the JCR which we were talking about. Okay, this is basically the database. Okay, now here we have other options as well, right? Right, this is something to save, and then we have other options for the package manager as well, which we will be covering. Okay, now just quickly just to show you guys that see, this is damn, it was my site test one. See, I created a folder just now and this is getting reflected. Okay, so this is how it is getting stored over here. We'll talk about more about the properties and how things we can alter, how we can change it in the coming sessions. Okay, then if we talk about in terms of templates and components. Okay, so as this is the project which I'm using, so this is one of that page. Okay, en page. Okay, so there is an option edit template. As of now, right, if you're feeling that this is kind of a it is at a running pace, but just bear with me, right? Since it is kind of a demo or introduction, so I just have to give what exactly we'll be doing. Okay, but then we will be covering these things in probably in the first 4 or 5 lectures. We'll be covering that thing. Okay, so as I talked about in that theory, that every page is built on a template. Okay, so there's an option to edit the template and it is leading to our page. This is basically the template. Okay, here out of the box we have these experience fragments for header and footer and all those things we have. Okay, now we have these components as well. Suppose this is the hello world component which we have. Okay, and from where we are getting it, right, we can drag those components. Okay, by using this plus icon we can give all the eligible components we can get. Suppose if I want to add this title component, so we can drag that component like this and we can author this. Okay, maybe this is for demo. Okay, and this is how it can be changed. Okay, and from where we are getting these components. Okay, so these components are getting stored in apps. Okay, so it would be apps, my site components. Okay, so these are the components. Text component, text delegate is something that I created. Then you are able to see it over here. Okay, so this is the content tree. Okay, you are getting the whole amount or the whole number of components which are used on this page. Okay, so there's one more component which says hello world component. Okay, so this component is also present over here. This is alphabetic order where it is. So if you see, this is the one hello world component. Okay, so it is coming from here only. Okay, so now, right, there is also backend code which is written as or which is associated with this component. Okay, I'll quickly show the HTML which is associated with this one. Okay, so we have this hello world.html file over here for this specific component. This is responsible for rendering the script over here. Okay, so suppose like if I just make a change over here, right, right, hello component, I just made it as 2. Okay, as of now this at this heading needs to be changed. Okay, because I have changed something over here. Okay, I saved it, this page. Okay, see, -2 gets appended. Okay, so this is the scripting or this is the file where we are writing our HTML. Okay, just for uh, the purpose to show the content. Okay, so this is HTML. Okay, there are few tags which you can see that the tags are pretty much similar to HTML, but in addition to that we have some tags which are in addition to the HTML or slightly. Okay, we'll try to use them as well. Okay, then these are components. And so this is the project, right? When I was talking about that I've built a project, so this is the my site project, right? You can see it over here. I can zoom it as well. So this is the project. I have built it into my AEM instance. Okay, Now, just to give you an overview, right? If you see over here, right, we were talking about components. Okay, so we had this component hello world and all those things. Okay, so this is also present here in our VS code, right, or in our ID. Okay, what we are doing over here, we will be changing, we will be editing our code base over here, and we will be deploying it to the AEM instance. Okay, so suppose if you are doing any changes over here, we'll deploy it to the AEM instance. We will be using Maven commands to build it. Okay, so Maven, if you are not aware, Maven is also a set of software only, right? Which is helping us to create the Maven project, to build that Maven project. So for that, we need that. Okay, and that is also in one of the prerequisites also. Okay, we should have it, and the version you can just target is I think 3.6.5 plus than that. Okay, then right we have but now till now you might be asking that where is the Java code, or right from where we will be accessing that. Okay, so if you see over here, we have this core folder over here, and then we have under that core we will be having different subfolders based on our requirements. We will be working on services, servlets, right, schedulers we will be working, then models, right. This is the basic one, right. These are all sling models. Okay, sling models, they are just a type of a Java class only, but in addition to that, if you see, this is the header of Java. So if you see, this is a simple Java class only, right? But there is an annotation which is getting used, okay, at the right model, which is registering this as a sling model, okay, which is giving the functionalities of a sling model. Okay, so we'll try to see how we will write this Java code, how we'll fetch that properties. Okay, ultimately what our goal is, right. So I'll quickly go and show it to you. So right now, right, if you see, this is basically a component. Okay, when I'm talking about those, right, everything here is a component. Every functionality is basically divided it into components. Okay, so this is one of the component, and this is coming from the core ones only. Actually, to be very precise, this is a proxy component, but we'll see, right, what exactly is a proxy component. As of now, don't get confused. You see, you just take it as a component only. Now, I am authoring this component, right? This keyword or this phrase, authoring of the component, would be very much easy to understand for Pankaj because he's working on that. But for you, Sam, right, when I say I'm authoring this component, so that basically means I'm giving the input to this component. Okay, and this is a authoring dialog. These are the fields, authoring fields over here. Okay, so if you see, if I want to give this as maybe as Pankaj, right, and this one is H4, H3. Okay, so now if I click on done, right, see, it changes to Pankaj. Okay, and give me a second, I'll pick just published. Okay, so see, that changes to Pankaj. Okay, so the whole thing we will be learning is how we are getting this value to be injected to this scripting language. Okay, how we are getting to know that we have changed this value, right? How Sling is getting to know that we are changing this value, how the code is identifying. So that whole topic, it will be revolving in components development, right? When we will be developing these, we will be seeing it how we can utilize the out of the box objects to fetch these values, where these values are being stored. Okay, that is one more thing, right? Suppose we are changing it, right? Maybe uh, we are changing it, right? Something like that. Okay. Okay. Now, when I'm clicking on done, the changes are reflected, right? But then eventually it has to be stored somewhere in CRX, right? So we'll see where the values are getting stored, how things are getting working. So everything will be a part of the component development. We'll try to fetch it using the Java classes as well. We can fetch it using the sitely objects as well. We'll use both of the approaches and we'll figure it out how we'll do it. And so these are all things we'll be covering. Then we will be covering servlets. Then servlet, in addition to that servlets, we will be covering services, workflows. So all those Java development activity we will be covering. Okay. But prior to that, what we will be covering is, right, knowing of the templates, components, proxy components, how components are being developed, Sling resource merger properties. That is also one more thing, right? We will be covering Clientlibs that we will cover. So this is all we will be covering in the future sessions. Okay.